How to become a life coach and motivational speaker. Do you dream of making a living inspiring others? Do you have a story to tell and you want to start a business coaching others and speaking around the world? If you want to get paid to motivate, you're in the right place, because in this video, I'm going to show you how to become a life coach and motivational speaker. Hey, CourtneyLSanders here. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new to me, I'm a full-time life and business coach as well as wife and mom. I wear all the hats and do all the things, but I'm also a paid professional speaker. So I thought it'd be fun to do this topic because not too long ago, I had a really big speaking engagement here in Houston. It was for a very large nonprofit gala and it was really great. It was a lot of people in the crowd. It was definitely one of my bigger speaking engagements, but it was really fun to do. And I get asked all the time how I get these speaking engagements. So not only have I done obviously this gala locally here in my city, but I've been invited to speak at the White House. I've spoken at the United Nations. I've spoken all over the place. And so it's definitely no easy feat to become both a motivational speaker and a life coach. And I'm a business coach and I'm doing all of these different things, but I find that my coaching brand really helps support my speaking brand. And so if you've ever wondered how you can be both a life coach and a motivational speaker, if you dream of sharing your story from the stage, maybe you one day want to write a book, you are definitely in the right place, because we're going to get into how all of that works starting now. All right, one of the first and biggest things that you need to keep in mind when it comes to not just becoming a life coach, but a motivational speaker, is that you really need to shape your story. And so I talk about this in detail in my video, How to Become a Women's Empowerment Coach, which you can check out here or here, wherever it shows up on the screen. But I go in detail about how to shape your story. And I talk about how most people tell their circumstances, but not their story, right? Your circumstances are what happened to you, but your story is the meaning behind it. It's the narrative that you give it. And so this is important for all businesses, for all brands, even if you're not in coaching and even if you're not in motivational speaking, but it's especially important for coaching and especially important for motivational speaking, because that's essentially what people are hiring you for. They're hiring you to motivate, to inspire, to entertain a crowd, and you really need to have mastery over your story to do that. Now, a lot of people get discouraged from sharing their story or believing that they can become a motivational speaker because they don't have a what I call under the bridge story, meaning they were never homeless, it was never some like crazy, horrible, traumatic thing that happened in, their childhood that they're going to build a story around it. But it really is not so much about what happened to you, but about how you tell it. And so I go in this in detail. This is actually like one of my favorite lessons that we teach inside of my program, The Next Big Name, where we tell you how to literally script your story, regardless of what your story is, and make it something that people are going to be salivating to learn more, and they're going to be asking, oh my goodness, can you come and speak to my group and tell that story? So we have a whole module dedicated to this in the program. If you want to learn more about the program, you can click the link below to check out everything that comes with it, as well as a sneak peek into what the platform actually looks like and what some of those videos are like and how the coaching works and all of those different things. It's a 12-month program, and we have staff coaches that coach, and you're able to submit questions that come directly to me and my staff. So it's really, really great. But anyway, we teach you that in detail in that program because it's so important to really master your story. So whether you learn it from my program or you learn it somewhere else, it's really important that you learn how to shape your story, because that is one of the key things that people are going to be hiring you for when it comes to not only life coaching, but being a motivational speaker. All right, the second thing that you want to keep in mind is you want to stick to one skill to start. And so what I mean by this is oftentimes when people get into life coaching or they get into motivational speaking, they're like, oh, I want to motivate on everything, right? I just want to help people be better. I just want to help people be successful, And that's too broad to start. You can eventually get to the point where you're going to get hired to speak on a variety of topics. Even now, I've been hired to speak on women in business, and then I've been hired to speak to younger audiences like high school students and college students on motivating them to achieve success. For this gala, I was kind of hired to help raise money, right? But in terms of the topic, it was motivating young women, because that's what the nonprofit was about. So, I've been invited to speak on a variety of topics, but I never would have gotten invited had I not started with something that I had real experience in, something that I had a real skill around. And so my first skill that I really developed and that I made a name for myself was in the area of self-discipline. I have a whole story about how I learned to master it in college after quite crazy circumstances happened to me after I kind of got myself into some trouble and, figured all of that out. And so self-discipline really became my shtick, so to speak, right? And that became the one skill that I became known for. And so that opened up doors in life coaching, and then life coaching opened up doors in motivational speaking because people saw my brand. I actually had one lady who invited me to speak on her radio show because she had gone through my self-discipline program, and she was like, oh my goodness, people need to hear your story. So knowing your story and knowing how to script it is really important, but you also want to master one skill to start because that's going to be something that people know you for. All right, the next thing you need to do if you not only want to be a life coach, but you want to be a motivational speaker, is you have to build a brand. And I talk about this all the time because it's super important, but this is even more important if you want to get hired to speak on stages, because now you're dealing with meeting planners. Oftentimes the speaking fees are quite substantial. They can pay you $5K on the low end, 10, 15, even 20K for a keynote or more, if you really have developed a brand. I find that the bigger your brand, oftentimes the bigger the checks are in terms of motivational speaking, but they're not going to cut a check to somebody with, a rinky-dink online presence. I'm just being real. You need to look like the powerful professional that you say you are when you're saying that you can show up and speak on these stages. And so I'm a big stickler about my brand. My website looks a certain way, my videos looks a certain way, etc. But I'm also making sure that I'm putting myself out there. And so I've had a lot of really great opportunities to be visible. You want to make sure that your brand is visible. In fact, I actually got featured on a billboard here in Houston that helped contribute to me getting a lot of different invitations because people were like driving on the freeway and saw me on the billboard, which was really crazy. So that's something that's different and out of the box. Not a lot of online coaches pursue like in-person marketing opportunities or avenues. So you want to think about what your brand is, but you want to think about specifically how you can make your brand professional, but how you can also make it visible. So how can you make it so that the people who matter see your brand, right? Where can decision makers see your brand? Obviously, they're going to be seeing you on social media, but don't be afraid to use local advertising, getting on TV, in the news, being on a billboard. All of those things make a big difference, especially in your local market. And if it sounds out of reach for now, again, you can start by building your brand on social media. Meeting planners, decision makers are still there. And then of course, clients who want to hire you from life coaching are still there as well. Okay, I have even more secrets where that came from, but first I want to hear from you. What do you want to motivate others about? Share in the comments below. All right, the next thing you need to keep in mind if you want to be a successful life coach and a motivational speaker is that you need to be a consistent content creator, okay? This is not like your typical 9-to-5 job where you are just going to do what you're paid to do within defined hours and then you're done. If you want this to be really your life, your life's work, your mission, your brand, the thing that you're really known for, you almost need to be excited about sharing your knowledge and your expertise, because this is beyond about just what you want to talk about. This is about sharing information with people so that they can ultimately achieve a vision for how you see the world can possibly be. Like, it needs to be at that level. I think about Steve Jobs and how he wasn't just creating Apple computers or iPhones or devices. He had a vision where the everyday creative could change the world. It was tools to help creative people change the world. That's what he was ultimately passionate about, and that's what all the devices were about. And so it needs to be the same thing with you and the content that you're creating. Oftentimes people treat content like, oh, it's this drudgery, it's this thing that I have to do, I hate social media, I don't want to do it. But then they want people to just, like, clients to just fall out of the sky, or meeting planners to just be like, oh my goodness, can we pay you $15,000 to motivate our audience? Totally not gonna happen. You need to create consistent content, one, because you are driven to. You are driven by the vision of how you can see the world. Like, wow, wouldn't the world be a better place if everyone understood X, Y, and Z? Therefore, I am on a mission to create content to get that information out there. And so when people can see that passion and they can see that consistency, it makes meeting planners want to reach out to you, and they can say, you know what? I really love when you talked about X, Y, and Z. Can you come to our group and speak about that? And if you don't believe me, I actually got a paid speaking engagement based off an Instagram post that I did. I did an Instagram post around the money mindset that you need to have, and I called it your MBA. I said you need to M, monetize a skill, B, you needed to build a business, and A, you needed to acquire assets, and you needed to do it in that order. And then in the caption, I talked about why all of those things are important. And in fact, I actually invite you to check out my video, How to Manage Money Like the Rich, which I talk about this in more detail. But someone loved that post so much, she she was actually hosting an event and asked me if I could come out and do a paid speaking event to talk about that specific topic. So oftentimes people don't even know that they want to hire you until they see something of yours. And this goes both ways, whether it's a meeting planner looking to hire you to become a motivational speaker, or a potential client who's looking to hire you to actually coach them in their life or their business or health or relationships or whatever. People don't know they need you until they see you, and they can't see you if you're never posting. So make sure that you're posting consistent content. All right, the fifth thing you need to do if you're serious about becoming a life coach and a motivational speaker is that you need to invest in yourself, especially if you want to become a motivational speaker. And I talk about this all the time, how you obviously need to invest yourself in order to build a successful coaching business, in order to learn how to market yourself. But then you also need to invest in yourself in order to learn the art of speaking. So I paid 2 different coaches, both of them, a total of what was almost $70,000 between the 2 of them, in order to learn how to master my message and how to speak and communicate powerfully and at a very high level. And I know that sounds like a crazy amount of money, but again, it's all based on the ROI. It's based on the value that I've gotten from that. And so just by implementing some of these things, again, my business skyrocketed, like, started making in a month what I had sometimes taken all year to make, like well worth the investment. And in fact, I talk about this in more detail in my How to Change Your Money Mindset video, in terms of how to think about your finances, and that it's not always about the price, but oftentimes it's about the value. That's certainly how wealthy people think about the financial decisions that they made. So I know that sounds crazy, and I'm not saying that you necessarily need to spend a total of $70,000 on your speaking education, but for me, it was well worth it, again, because I get paid high speaking fees. People join my coaching programs. My business has grown really successfully, in part because of my ability to speak, my ability to communicate effectively and communicate in a powerful and in an insightful way. And so if this is something that you struggle with, you really need to double down and make this investment. Like I'm not even going to pretend that this is not an issue, right? I'm not saying that you have to speak perfectly in the sense that you can't have an accent or something like that. Whatever is a part of your natural way that you speak. I think about Tabitha Brown, who has that kind of down-home Southern charm about her, or E.T. the hip hop preacher, who's one of the highest paid speakers, and he's got a very raw, rough, in-your-face way of speaking. All of that is fine. You don't have to speak like you're the Queen of England in order to attract both coaching clients and motivational speakers, but you do need to speak powerfully, and there is an art and science to this. In fact, there's an art and science to everything. And I think if there's one takeaway that you really need to understand, is that oftentimes people that you see who are successful at their craft, whether it's life coaching, motivational speaking, part of the reason it looks easy is because they're so good at what they do, right? Kobe Bryant made basketball look easy, but we all know how hard he worked. It's the same thing when it comes to investing in your coaching business and in your speaking and in your mastery of communication. It might feel like, oh, I don't need to invest in that, and that's not a big deal because I see all these people, they just get on YouTube and they just speak. But you don't understand all the years of practice, all the years of work, all the investments with coaches that they've worked with in order to be able to communicate powerfully on a dime, just off the cuff that way, right? There is an art form and it's a skill to this. And so I cannot stress enough how important it is to take seriously your investment in this if you really do want to make this a business and really a lifetime brand. And that's another thing that you need to keep in mind. This is beyond just a business for you. This is going to be a brand that is going to allow you to do so much more, to travel, to create generational wealth for your family, to leave an impact and a legacy on the world. Like, again, this is not a 9-to-5 job. Like, this is so much bigger than that. And so when you think about the long-term benefits that you are getting ultimately from creating a successful life coaching and motivational speaking business, you cannot hesitate to make that investment. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, you're gonna love the secrets that I give away in my Coaching Success Secrets seminar. You can click the link below in order to get access to that. That's a seminar that I recorded not too long ago, and you're gonna get the replay for free instantly when you sign up via the link below. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And if you want even more, make sure that you are following me on Instagram. And if you want even more, make sure you are subscribed to my podcast, The Courtney Sanders Show, on both iTunes and Spotify. And with that, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.